Hey everyone, welcome back to your favorite sales podcast. I'm your host, Ross Rich, and today we have a very special guest. We have Sean Brophy, Head of Global Sales at Pigment, and appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ross. Good to be speaking with you today. Look forward to the conversation.
Amazing, amazing. Well, before we get into the kind of three key topics for driving execution excellence, so the audience gets to know you a bit more, how did you find your way into revenue leadership? I'm sure this wasn't the thing you were thinking about when you were 5 or 6 years old growing up. So, what was your kind of path to this role?
Yeah, no, it was definitely not the thing that I think I wanted to be a vet when I was 5 or 6 and realized it was a lot of schooling and chose a different path. But nonetheless, here I am. So I've been in sales my entire career, worked my way from BDR and renewals rep and like all of the things into a leadership role. I was a team lead for a little while, and I see this frequently in the organizations that I've been a part of and the people that I lead is, this desire to move into leadership. And the first step for me was a move into a team lead. At that moment in time, we found ourselves with a constant churn of a frontline leader. In our VP at the time just kept asking me to step in and like assume those responsibilities. And at some point, he asked me to take over officially the team, and I had declined. I ended up declining twice, and the third time he came to me and said, "I'm not going to ask you again, but like let me explain to you what this means."
Yeah,
for
why'd you say no originally
Yeah.
twice?
Because he was very candid with me and said, "You'll make less money.
Yeah, the
You'll
usual.
work twice as hard. Your calendar is not your own." And like those three things, I said, "Thanks, but no thanks."
Yeah.
I want to like master my own my own calendar, own my own calendar, be my own destiny, and make as much money as I possibly can. When he outlined the pros of getting into leadership, I soon realized that. Those are the things I really enjoyed, and I really enjoy helping others. I enjoy coaching. I enjoy creating a vision and setting out an opportunity to execute. I enjoy and love cross-functional collaboration. It's like creating culture, all of those things. And so my move was one that I was reluctant to at first. And the advice that he gave me and that I give actually to people on my team today is do the job that you want tomorrow as if you had it today. And I was kind of doing those things as a team lead, and we just made it more official. So,
Amazing, amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough transition. I think that's one of the kind of most consistent piece of feedback that I hear is like for all the reasons you get into sales. When you get into sales leadership, a lot of those go away and kind of transform. So
Correct.
it's a tough jump.
It is, and that's why I think that you have to be committed to the end result, which is not about your own gain. It's if you believe in servant leadership and all of those things, it's really about trying to figure out how to propel those that are part of your organization that ultimately I work for, is my belief. Like, how do I get the best out of them and make them better in their day to day and help them advance in their own careers? And that's the stuff that I absolutely love.
Totally. Well, no surprise, and that's a perfect transition, as if you've been on this before, to our first topic, which is going to be people, right? So we're going to talk about kind of three core topics here. We prepped. First is going to be people. Next, the thing that solves all problems is pipeline, and then we'll talk about enablement to round ourselves out. But kicking off with people, curious why that's number one on your list, and how you think about the right people as your number one lever for execution excellence.
Yeah, I mean, people. That's at the end of the day, that's what it is. You use the word lever, and people are like to use a tool like metaphor. They're leverage, and so I think that in any organization that you're building, the right people, goes without saying, will help you go further faster, and the wrong people will set you back months, quarters, potential years. And so for me, when I look at building a high performing sales organization, it's finding like-minded people. It's finding those that have a competitive spirit in what they do. It's those that love to collaborate. It's love for the process itself, putting the customer front and center. Like, those are the things that I look for. Building a sales culture is essentially, it's the combined personas of a team. And it's funny because we talk about teams, but sales is an individual sport, so to speak. It really is. I have a quota, and you have a quota, I might have a bunch of people that help me support to my quota, but we talk about teams. And so successful teams are those that know how to, as a leader, put in the right people at the right place at the right time. And so we have a lot of discussions on what that looks like, and we talk a lot about, moment in time. And I've made mistakes where I've hired wrong people at a moment in time. Great for the company 2 years, 3 years, 5 years from now, but at this moment in time, just not the right people. And so what I've seen happen is when you make those mistakes, number one, if you don't own them, you lose trust, you lose the credibility that you might have built up. But you also you lose an opportunity to actually be more vulnerable. And so that's one of the other big tenets that I believe in, is like a culture of vulnerability, of trust, and of transparency. And so when I start building teams and I look for people, like, those are some of the attributes and qualities that, like, I'm looking for. And I will make mistakes, continue to make mistakes every day. But if I can find people that are willing to be naturally curious, that are naturally competitive, I just find that there's nothing that you can't solve for.
Yeah, that's a good call out. And like you said, you want to find people that are, excellent and competitive and all this stuff, but like, inevitably, if you're moving fast and doing the right stuff, you're making a lot of mistakes along the way, and able to, I think trust really comes from, having those issues and sorting through them, right? Like, those are always I think the high trust building moments, like, obviously assume good intent, but like, you mess up, hire the wrong person, say the wrong thing, and coming back to that, that's where I feel like that kind of like recreating, that connection is actually where a lot of that, trust and connection is built.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think that trust and connection are almost synonymous with transparency and clarity. And so, like, that's part of our job as leaders, is to be as transparent and provide as much clarity. Like, these are the things that we're struggling with. These are the things that we're doing. These are the expectations that I have of you. And by the way, these are the expectations you should have of me. Like, those conversations are quintessential if you're going to actually build an organization where trust becomes like foundational to everything that you do. And that's my belief.
Amazing. And before we switch off to the next P, pipeline, what do you think, if you were to think about, your top 1, 2, or 3 expectations that you would set with either a frontline leader or seller on your team as you're building out your team? What do you think the most important expectations that you would set for folks on your team to be successful?
For the frontline leaders, coaching, that's number one. We spend a lot of time on this as well. And so the number one thing that a frontline leader can do to accelerate growth for an individual in their career, and then ideally their career at Pigment, is coaching. And so I think that, being a servant leader or somebody that does believe in working for your team is being able to have candid, transparent conversations that entail a lot of coaching. Like, that is the number one thing. I think the second thing that I look for is predictability. And so as I tell our team is, predictability is really hard to do. And so I need to have an understanding of like what your operational cadence is, and I need to have an understanding of like how you run your business, both from a forecast, deal review, coaching. Like, those functions allow for me to accurately assess whether or not we're on the right trajectory or we're not. And those are like early warning signs. And like, we can probably get into that in a little bit here, but those are the things that I look for. Predictability and coaching is like top of mind. The other would just be transparency and clear lines of communication. I think that especially at an organization that like ours is moving really fast, we may think that we're communicating clearly and transparently, and we may not be. And so I think that over communicating is really, really important. And so people will do a lot of what you ask, and they'll do most of what you ask if you tell them the why behind it. And so I think that being very transparent in your communication and explaining the why behind what we do as leaders is incumbent upon what we do. I mean, you have to remember, like, these people are looking to us as like we're the ones that ideally know more about what's going on in the company than they do.
Yeah.
The why is really important.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. I think it's a phrase that comes to mind is the curse of knowledge. Is like, it seems so obvious for us because we live in these certain sets of meetings and the information isn't, even if it's, oh, we shared it on the all hands of this thing. It's like, that's one of 500 times you're hearing it, so it seems so obvious. Like, oh, we shared it once a quarter when maybe they were responding to that, really important, text message from a champion, and they missed that one little piece. So yeah,
that is exactly right, and we're guilty of that. You've done 5 prep calls to get to the thing, and you now have it committed to memory, and it's the first time they're hearing it. So yeah, 100%.
Amazing. Well, let's shift gears to the other P, pipeline.
Yeah.
Love that this is number 2 because I do believe you can screw up a lot of things, have a big pipeline, and probably be pretty okay from a sales revenue perspective. So what does this mean to you in terms of execution excellence when it comes to pipeline?
Yeah, I think so. I have a revenue target in looking at leading and lagging indicators. Revenue is the lag, and pipeline is one of the leading indicators to to the success of the company. And so, assuming you put the right people in place, going back to the first topic we had, the second is pipeline, and pipeline is the lifeblood of any sales team. And right now, in current climate, organizations are scraping and clawing their way to pipeline generation. And so setting a culture where pipeline generation is the thing is really hard to do, and it's very important at the same time. And I say it's hard to do because if you think back to the sales team and where certain sellers might be in their career, and I've seen this, is like they're having to work 4 to 5 times as hard to, in some cases, make a third less and maybe get to an average quota attainment right now across the industry is like 53%. And so if you think about those metrics, like the amount of pipeline that you have to generate in order to actually become successful is very real, and those numbers get bigger and bigger. And so, barring like flawless execution and win rates and all of those other things, like pipeline is the lifeblood of a company. And so when we look at Q3, Q4 and beyond, the pipeline is the indicator. Like that is the thing that we are going to, when we get together as a leadership team and talk about operationally, how are we looking. It is looking at data. It is looking at win rates. It's looking at pipeline coverage. It's looking at weighted pipeline. It's looking at all of those things. Setting the tone and setting the culture for that early on is hard to do because it does truly take an army of people from marketing, from sales, from rev ops, in order to actually successfully put together. We do PG days every Thursday. In fact, our teams right now are in the midst of that, and so. It's hard to do. It requires a lot of coordination, and it requires a commitment from leaders and from the sellers. And so one of the things that we do is we have pipeline targets by line of business inside Pigment. And so whether you're on the growth team, whether you're on the marketing team, you're on the BDR team, you're an AE, you have a partner team, you've got a target. Like everybody is an earner. So it's hard.
And you bring up a good point, which is people have been successful maybe for the last, maybe you've been in sales for 10 years versus a BDR, then as, SMB, mid-market, enterprise AE, and maybe you hadn't had to learn these skills or have this rigor around pipeline generation. And like you said, that's what you need to win today and to outperform. So I think it's harder to change cultures and to change things versus, start with it. So how are you kind of helping to change the culture of people that, again, might be really talented, but it's really, really asking people to do more work to be successful?
Yeah, we actually like PG days, and that's not a new idea. There's a lot of companies that are doing that, but we've actually instituted in North America, where it's a dispersed workforce and they're in various cities, is You'll be in one of our offices one Thursday a month with a group of people.
Awesome.
Pipeline generation is hard. Pipeline generation where you're sitting at home by yourself is even harder. And so we try to gamify. Like that's one of the things that we do. We'll put in spiffs in place. And so our European team put in, they call it Formula P, so Formula Pipeline, where each day is a lap and like each quarter is a race. And so like they've gamified with spiffs every week between the BDR and the AE that actually generates the most qualified pipeline. In North America, we did March Madness, where it was like groups of teams and it was like down to like a final four. And so gamification is one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah, you gotta make it
and then putting people in an office together. And that to me is it came out as a mandate. Like you're gonna be in the office and like you're gonna sit together and you're gonna actually make calls together. That's the other tough thing, quite honestly, Rich, I'm sorry, Ross, is the folks today, some of the younger in their career, like picking up the phone is scary. They're used to the device, like
the text, the email,
swiping
the
and
LinkedIn,
texting and doing all those things. And you can go into these sales floors and it's crickets. It's a library. And so when you actually get more energy into the office by putting additional bodies in the office, like you actually create momentum. And so that's one of the things that we've been able to do is actually put a requirement in place. You will be in the office, plus gamification, plus readouts, and we send out notes to the team, and like we make videos to actually make it as fun as we can. And we take every moment that we can. We're going to be at a company offsite in 2 weeks, and we've got 2 hours carved out one Thursday for a big auditorium where we're putting everybody in the auditorium together, and we're going to do PG. I did it myself back in February. We had our sales kickoff, and it was phenomenal. I got hung up on. I called somebody, and they hung up on me, and it was on speaker, and everybody, it was a good moment. So lead from the front.
Yeah, no, everyone needs to get on that, especially kind of that executive alignment. I think has been one of the best kept not secrets, but people don't do. So
correct.
Before we wrap, I know you probably got a hard stop here in a couple. We'll wrap up with enablement. We talked about the importance of the right people, focus on pipeline these days. Let's round us out with enablement. Why is this kind of top three, and how do you think about prioritizing enablement?
And so if I was to put those in, it would be people, enablement, and pipeline. And okay. So enablement, I think about two forms. There's initial enablement, and then there's onboarding. So everboarding, onboarding. Going back to like the first principle of people, if you find the right people and you don't enable them to be successful, the results are going to be not successful. And so we've hired a world-class and built a world-class enablement team. And so we look at things, we call them the gold standards. And so like our gold standards are for our AEs and for our BDRs. And we use a Pigment platform to actually look at all of this. And it's, how are you performing on the inputs? And so whether that's number of calls, depending upon your role, the number of meetings, are you getting skilled badges, and are you able to actually communicate effectively with our prospects and our customers with messaging? Can you talk about our competitors? Do you know the latest AI capabilities? And so these are things, whether you're getting badged or you're getting certified, that are all part of the enablement experience. What this allows us to do by tracking all of this and by tracking pipeline generation, it allows us to get a very early read on whether or not we have somebody that needs a little additional attention and some additional love, i.e. they need more coaching, they need more training. And so those are things that we take serious. If in a complex enterprise sale that might take 9 to 12 months, you have to get an early read on your team, on your people, to figure out whether or not like I might have a potential problem on my hands. I can't wait till month 7 to figure that out.
Yeah, especially if they're on key accounts that are must-win deals. You can't wait 12 months to figure that out across a handful of sellers.
That is exactly right. And so we start looking for themes around our successful sellers, and we say, okay, the inputs that we want to hold everybody accountable to are these, and these are tied to the KPIs per persona. We make this 100% transparent, and back to the spirit of transparency, for everybody on the sales organization to see. So I know exactly where I stack up against all of my peers on all of these KPIs. Now, I'm competitive. If we call them our gold standards. If I'm in the red, I probably want to call Ross, who's in the gold, and find out what Ross is doing, right?
Exactly.
And if I'm Ross, maybe I want to, I'm somebody that wants to be a team lead someday, going back to my earlier comments, I maybe want to disseminate some of the best practices that I do. So it creates this own little sense of community where individual sellers can go to one another and figure out what their peers are doing to generate pipeline, to make sure that they're doing all of the right things right. The other reason why we do this is there's nothing worse than being somebody in a bad position that doesn't know they're in a bad position. And you go have a hard conversation and they're completely shocked. Like, I had no idea. This eliminates all of that because everything is completely transparent and you know exactly where you're at all times. The boards also take into account qualitative feedback. So we go interview cross-functional teams to find out maybe they're not performing well, but man, they're a phenomenal cross-functional business partner to everybody in the SC organization. And so we create an onboarding curriculum, we create an everboarding curriculum, and then we tailor it to the individual and we tailor it to the team. In conjunction with coaching. And coaching, as I mentioned earlier, led by the frontline leaders who can pick on specific things that they believe needs to happen to generate success at the seller level.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the expectation setting. It's making sure that it's fair, objective. Hey, this is where you need to be first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. Who's doing really well in that to bug those folks, and just that clarity I think sometimes is really lacking. And you definitely don't want to have any of those surprise conversations.
Correct. And so those three, those are my vital few. It's circular, right? If I get people right, if I get enablement right, if I get pipeline right, around and round we go, and the outcome of all of that is revenue. Yeah. So if I just focus my energy on those things, the revenue will take care of itself. And so that's where I spend a lot of my time, is focused on those three key criteria.
Amazing. Well, I got some good things to think about, for my own business. Hopefully folks that are listening in, think about ways they can, clarify their expectations and enable their teams. And again, like you said, kind of focus on how do you make pipeline generation, quote unquote, fun, maybe in a way, gamification, leading into that competitiveness. But this was an awesome session, Sean. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Best of luck making it happen out there.
Appreciate you, Ross. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and your listeners. Anything I can do moving forward, please don't be shy. Let me know.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Thank you.